The governor's veto should HB 455 become law. The chair recognizes the member from Bedford, Representative Danielson, to speak in support of override.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. My proposal to you this morning is that to ask you to override the veto that the governor has given on the death penalty, 455, House Bill 455, passed by the House of Representatives and the New Hampshire Senate recently. We're here today because the chief executive, the executive branch, opted to veto the vote of the House. As representatives, we voted at that time, if you remember, on our conscience. We searched our conscience to say, we know some of us agreed that the death penalty should be enforced. We also had folks who agreed that it's difficult to take someone else's life for whatever reason. So there was a vote at that time of our conscience. The chief executive voted on his conscience. It's his responsibility, and he exercised that responsibility. We can't find any fault with that. That is his job. And so we support what he has done as far as his responsibility. However, we don't, at least I don't, support the idea of taking someone else's life. I mentioned in my last presentation to you, I mentioned that I was a supporter of the death penalty when I first came up here, and that I got a call one time after I was elected. I got a call from a very senior Republican conservative candidate who asked me if I was pro-life. And I mentioned that, yes, of course I was, and there's a number of reasons why. He was aware of some of those. And I said, of course I am, yes. And he said, and where are you on the death penalty? I said, I support the death penalty, of course. He said, really? How do you reconcile those two positions? As some professors that we may have had in college, that drove me crazy, because now I had a question that I had to resolve, and I had to think about the values and the morality of those decisions. And it took me a whole weekend, plus another part of a week, to try to rationalize why. I couldn't. And so at the end of the period of 2 weeks, probably, I decided that I was pro-life. That was it. There's no distinction as to how. And I'm aware of some of the arguments. I'm a soldier. I realize some of those arguments. However, in this particular case, I believe we, the House, voted our conscience. Whether you agreed with the outcome or not, we all voted our conscience. And if you recall at that time, I said, we can't hold anybody on account of how they voted, because you did it according to your conscience. And I feel the same way today, and I feel the same way about the governor's vote. I believe he voted his conscience, exercised his conscience. That's the goodness of all of you and the governor. We did what we're asked to do. I ask you this morning to please consider again our overwhelming vote to get rid of the death penalty, and to vote green to defeat the idea that we won't repeal the death penalty. And I thank you very much for your attention. Mr. Speaker, I'll take no questions.
Okay, thank you. The question before the House is notwithstanding